say the purest form of excitement for anything really is when you truly believe in it. When you apply that to the game genre, of course there are always developers that are proud of their work, but finding a game built on a dev team to be purely their vision of what they wanted to play is tougher to come by. A dev team that sees something they wish they had to play for themselves, and then in turn they build it out and share it with the world, sharing that excitement in a hopeful anticipation that it's also received by plenty of other players out there, it's something that's a little rarer. I love seeing developers do this, and in the era of AAA big money ROI, it happens less and less, it feels like, because again, these publishers are always like, we need to get more money for what we invested into this. The FPS space being notorious for that. But Wardogs is just that. And yesterday, developer Bulkhead released a bit more details about their vision, design philosophy, and uncompromising determination to create a fun, team-driven game. Today, I want to run down a bit more of this information with you, as well as when you can potentially get your hands on for yourself to try it out and give your own feedback to help craft the game further. Drop your thoughts below, drop a like if you enjoy the video, and make sure to subscribe for more Wardogs and other FPS content. I'd love to have in the community. And finally, check out my friends over at Advanced GG, where code Espresso can get 10% off your entire order, but more on that later. For now, let's get into it. So firstly, this dev blog they put out was called Addressing Feedback. They said that they wanted to talk a little bit about how they as a developer will handle the feedback, not necessarily in terms of like disregarding the sentiment of other players, but more so listen to this basic summary.
We're not going to compromise our vision for Wardogs based on feedback from people who haven't yet had the opportunity to experience the game how we intended.
As a studio, they don't want to compromise their vision just based off of this looks type of statements. And to me, I think that's entirely fair. I've said it for years to save any judgment until you get hands-on with a game. Mostly we'll talk about that in relation to things like pre-orders and games like that for the channel here, where you do it or don't do it based off how you actually feel about the game after you've gotten your own personal experience. But the same principle applies in both directions, especially when we talk about like the just look of a game. I think this game looks unique and fun with a team, but perhaps I log on and it's not my cup of tea after all, whereas someone could say this looks terrible, but if they hop on, it could be incredibly fun for them. So therefore, they want to present their game in the nature and light in which they intend to develop it for, and explain that a little bit further. I think the pressure to retain an audience is fair to adjust accordingly, but not to necessarily bend over backwards and completely change your direction for, which just comes back to that initial statement of how this game was made by the devs to fill a gap that they saw in the genre as a game they themselves wanted to play. They believe that vision, and they're going to see it through and deliver for players so they can try it out for themselves. Now, one of those things that was sort of on the chopping block or garnered some critique right up front was something that was the kill cam. Now, they mentioned they're a hardcore tactical shooter, but they don't want that to forget that it's a game. They take elements of these hardcore games but make them more approachable for all players, not necessarily just a purely tactical milsim game. Their breakdown they gave was actually, I think, pretty solid, where Arma, Tarkov, and games like that, those players think Battlefield is casual, Battlefield players think they're hardcore because it's not Call of Duty they're playing, and COD players think they're hardcore because they're playing, well, hardcore mode. It's all subjective, but they want to separate themselves as a hardcore experience, but with elements that can be easy to pick up. So with kill cam in mind, again, that being something that was a sort of pain point as an arcade style item, they said that this was just as an onboarding item, and that in-game there are plenty of elements that can disable or negate some of the effects of that kill cam. The examples they gave was the ghillie suit. This is something that is going to be a steep price point in-game for when you want to try and use it, and will replace an armor slot, so you'll be nothing but flesh and bones in a firefight that obviously is a lot more dangerous and susceptible to incoming fire, but it negates the kill cam entirely. So if you get a kill, that player dies and doesn't see where that fire came from, giving you the element of surprise in further gunfights and making callouts almost impossible to give their teammates that are still alive and in the AO. Headshots also partially negate the kill cam. It doesn't focus on a player who got killed, it just pans to where they were from without pinpointing them. Just like a general direction sense. This feature, they said they're not trying to sell anyone on it, but they want to make sure that players understand the logic behind it, why it was added and how it works before writing it off entirely as just something they don't want to engage with. It's there for players who may not be entirely accustomed to hardcore games, so they can learn the ropes a bit more instead of just getting frustrated over constant deaths from wherever it could be, uninstalling and never interacting with the game again. This being used to onboard players to more hardcore elements of the game, especially if you're just learning it, but not something you need to be reliant on as a result. They also did mention, though, that there's going to be upcoming hardcore modes here for this, where kill cam is disabled, there was a reduction in HUD, it's a squad only kill feed, and first person vehicle use is only the thing allowed. That's something they said is massively important to them, and is something that will be both privately and publicly hosted as well. So you don't have to take into account the sort of kill cam effect if you don't want to. There's going to be something for everybody that if you want to just go into the hardcore experience, you're going to have that opportunity as well. And finally, the last thing they said was this.
We're not going to defend ourselves every time the loudest voices disagree with our decisions, but in this early stage, we want you to know wholeheartedly who you're buying the game from. We want you to understand the vision we have for the game and what game you're buying into.
This is the game we want to make and play ourselves. Honestly, if you're still against that, Wardogs might not be for you. You'll always be welcome, but we don't want you to spend your money on something you might not enjoy.
That personally, I love that too. Unapologetically, their vision with the honesty to tell you, hey, we don't want you to waste your money if you don't think you're going to like it. That's something that no dev really ever does, and it's quite refreshing to hear. Just an honest take on, hey, maybe it's not for you, that's cool, but save your money if so. Now, that said, it seems like a lot of people are definitely interested, because the day before, they did announce 650,000 wish lists on Steam alone, which personally, love that for the team. They've been pretty adamant in their target for daily active users being 3,000 to 5,000 to keep the lights on, but depending on the price point, this could absolutely be something that floor is just well below what they actually get. The interest is very clearly there, and it seems like they're doing the right things to attract the right sort of attention here for this. So, that said, sounds interesting and everything, but what if you want to play it for yourself? Well, you're actually in luck. They announced a pre-alpha playtest in this dev blog and expanded upon it a little further, where this is going to be 2 nights and open for upwards of 4,000 players. They said the Wardogs closed pre-alpha runs over 2 nights starting Friday the 26th of June. Here's how it works. We're testing with 4,000 players, access is extremely limited, and not everyone who signs up will get in. If you secured a spot, you'll be contacted by email. If you're selected, log in, dial in your settings, and jump into the firing range to get a feel for weapons, equipment, and vehicles. After servers spin up, you can get in-game, and they'll stay active for EU and NA until 2 a.m. UTC. Login access stays open after that, so you can keep playing in the firing range, but same thing on Saturday. It starts again with access at 4 p.m. UTC to 2 a.m. UTC, when then login access will actually close. That gives you some time to earn cash and progress your role, take some downtime overnight, and then come back the next evening to rank up even further. They did mention that this is under NDA, so you're free to talk about your experience, but you can't share screenshots, videos, or live streams. And finally, they say, thanks for being a part of the Wardogs journey. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff, of course, sign up at the link down below. Check out the stuff that is on screen with QR code, however you want to end up going about that. But it's extremely selective. It's not going to be something that everybody will end up getting in, which is unfortunate. But again, this is a small, closed pre-alpha playtest. We're still waiting on that early access release date, but we are going to see that in the next couple of months here, that as we build up to that, every single time that there is an opportunity to play, I'm personally excited to see what comes of that. But ultimately, Bulkhead have really nailed my excitement for this for a number of different reasons. Number one, game looks good. It looks unique. It's something that is, again, filling that gap in the genre between a super hardcore and an arcadey style game, but also doing things differently with those game modes and how the core gameplay itself rolls around, combining a little bit of everything. You have zones you need to capture, kills you need to get, currency and economy you need to acquire, base building and out-of-world upgrades you can make. That kind of stuff is really cool to me. So to see all of that put into one, I think the game just looks good, and I'm excited to get my hands on it. Number two, the dev team seems genuinely stoked to play this with everybody. Like obviously, yeah, like we talked about, everybody's gonna be proud of their work. It's something that you wanna be proud of and release what you have to the world, but it's always a good sign when you can work on something for your entire day job and then be like, yeah, I'm gonna clock out and then go play some more. And that seems to be a very common thread with Wardogs and the people over at Bulkhead. And number three, the level of transparency is just commendable. I've really enjoyed this sort of series of dev vlogs that they've ended up doing. Obviously, it's all likely due to being an independent studio and being self-published, that you don't have to run through all the usual hurdles of a AAA massively backed studio that has a comms team to check in on what the devs are doing and what they have upcoming. Write up a press release and statement about what's happening, patch notes, whatever it may be, have it checked and then okayed with either the studio legal team, or if it's at a publisher, maybe multiple legal departments if the publisher's large enough and it's global, all just to say, hey, here's what's upcoming, here's what you need to know about. Obviously, it'll be a lot more raw and unfiltered because those hurdles aren't necessarily in place, but it's nice to see that they're being so open and communicative with absolutely everything and seem to share that genuine excitement that us players, if you are excited about it, also have. So looking forward to this, but wanted to fill you guys in here on a little bit more about what Wardogs has to offer in the near future. So that said, that's where we're going to wrap it up. But before we do, a quick heads up, we have partnered with my friends over at Advanced GG. Again, as we've mentioned, a bit under the radar the last few months, but now going into the summer, ramping that up more and more. Advanced is the healthier energy supplement option where I use it daily as my comparable cup of coffee. Currently drinking that raspberry lemonade. Magic Rainbow Sherbet's also another one that's one of my favorites, but I'd highly recommend, and we actually co-branded that along with a few other items on their site, like a 26-ounce ice shaker. But love this stuff. If you're looking for a replacement for your own cup of coffee, give it a try. If you decide to give it a go, code Espresso and get 10% off your entire order. But no sweat, appreciate you hearing me out on this. And of course, just checking in on the videos here that you made it this far. But anyways, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. What are you guys looking forward to? If you are looking forward to Wardogs, what are you looking forward to about it? Drop a like if you enjoyed the video and make sure to subscribe for more Wardogs and other FPS coverage. I'd love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.